pains look like? Growing pains look like things that we sustain and that we run across when we are in our growth element. Everything's going well. We feel good. We look good. We're ready to conquer the world. Then something happens. And some of us, we actually haven't gotten to a place where we're able to embrace all the goodness that's happening. We're always thinking about that something's going to happen. Something's too good to be true, so something has to happen next. And I really encourage folks to come out of that type of mindset, which is a learned behavior. And it really does rob us of staying in a good place, even when things don't feel good. Have you ever heard the statement of having peace even in the midst of chaos? Which doesn't sound wonderful, I'm sure, but there is something that we can have which equates to peace. One can even feel joyful even in the midst of a lot of different things going on or swirling around them or us. There is a notion of kind of like a tornado, right? You're in the middle of a tornado, so it's swirling around, or maybe you're on the outside looking at the tornado swirling around and it looks disastrous. Everything in that swirl, in that wind, is wreaking havoc on the entire environment and everything around an individual, right? So whether you're sitting in the middle of that or you're somewhere outside of that, none of that is a fun thing to imagine. If you want to maintain your sanity, you must not panic with that tornado. You might have some reactions to it, but you cannot turn yourself over with the tornado, because guess what? You will be taken up with that tornado and tossed somewhere where you have no clue of where you're at. But if you remain as best you can in a calm state of mind, knowing that it will be over, and even if it does take you somewhere you don't want to go, you have surrendered so much so that you've developed a mindset that rises way above the chaos. When the chaos or the tornado has finished, what typically happens when we think about a natural disaster is that there are lots of ruins. All of our belongings are scattered everywhere. There's a lot of cleanup that has to happen. There's a lot of emotion that takes place. We have to call in a lot of different people to come and help us. And that's no different than when that happens in our lives, from a mental stance, from a physical stance. But only during that time where all of that chaos has stopped or come to a halt, can we even actually look around and see all the damage, right? And there's nothing we can do about it. And that is huge. When we think about when we're in those chaotic moments, if there's truly nothing you can do about it, but sit in it and wait until it's over, then think about, how do I keep my sanity even in the midst of something that feels really horrible and hard? I'm not pretending any part of this is easy, but it's really touching on how we can have a free mind even in the midst of something that feels like it's binding our minds. And that I would truly connect with growing pains. It's through that pain that we begin to grow in ways we've never been able to grow before. Why? Because we've never had that type of situation before, especially the first time it happens. Now, if something like that chaotic tornado happens again, then your mind, your psyche will remember that you got through it. Why? Because you're sitting here thinking about how you got through it and all the different things, the memories come up. You're reminiscing about it, good, bad, and indifferent. All of that is coming up to tell you you've survived this before. And those are the kinds of things and what we need to get through those storms, those natural disasters that happen in our world, in our lives. We have to learn how to have peace even in the midst of chaos. And again, I come back to it's through those times that we really find a strength we may have never known that was there. We find a mindset that we can go to that we never thought we could go through or go to. And that all comes from growing pains. As a psychotherapist, I talk to many individuals who go through so many, I'll call them mini tornadoes in their lives. Some really big ones, but for now I'm going to focus on the mini tornadoes that happen. And often we talk about what it looks like when one recovers from that, right? Because typically people will come and talk to me after the fact. I get the aftermath of the story. But what happens is individuals feel stuck in that moment and they feel like they can't move past what has happened. That then makes individuals want to freeze, want to run, or want to think about another chaotic moment that may happen in the future. And again, remember when I'm saying this, I'm not saying that individual has that much control over it, but these are all unconscious things that are happening, but that we're talking about, that comes to the surface, that makes it a conscious thought, and we can talk about it when it becomes conscious, and when we can move into the different elements that are creating the fear factors around those thoughts and those feelings and those experiences that people bring in a therapy session. When we talk about how to grow from these things, there is naturally an anxiety that comes up. And for me, I call anxiety the cousin of trauma, the cousin of fear, the cousin of worry. They're all related. They all give you similar feelings depending on what you're dealing with. Those things come up and they, a lot of times, block us from truly enjoying the journey towards the next experience that we're going to have. Because we're too in our head, we're too thinking about what's going to happen or how it's going to happen or that it's going to be so horrible like the last time. And what I often share with people is think about that you are here telling this story right now, so you've gotten through it. If it happens again, there's nothing you can do about it, right? If you've looked at all the factors and how you can prevent something from happening, but if it's something you have no control over, you have no control over it. You can't do anything about it, right? It might happen again, but you don't know that it will. But when it does, what I want people to start to do is to trust that you will know. I'm doing this because this is a hunch. Trust that you will know what to do when it's time to do it. And that you still have to go through those moments. And once you get through those moments, you will have felt an empowerment and another notion or another notch towards growth. But it's really getting to that notion and then understanding that this truly is helping you grow to be a stronger, more prepared individual for these same types of instances that are going to happen now and in the future. But what I bring up to people is that if we look at these as growing pains, that there's a positive word and a negative word, they go together. But to me, when we have that equates to balance or equilibrium. If we can sit with that and get through that, we actually push ourselves to continue to walk forward, continue to take the journey that we're taking, knowing there are going to be growing pains on the journey, knowing that we are going to have some stuck moments, knowing we're going to have some fearful moments. And I always say fear is false evidence appearing real, because we in our minds think about it in a way that makes it so much more grandiose before it even happens, that it actually brings us to a place of being stuck, right? And it helps us to kind of imprison ourselves. So when we think about growing pains, I want us not to be afraid of it. I want us to move into it with insight. When we know, we can do what we're supposed to do. As they say, when we know better, we can do better. And that's a true statement. But it's really relying on that you got through it the first time, you'll get through it again, that you have survived the first time and you can survive again, and that if it's an instance that you have no control over, you cannot plan for that instance. You have to continue to stand in it, walk in it, and get through it. And through that, you will have these elements that will be both growth factors and growing pains, but both have the word growth in them. You will continue to grow in who you are. There are some things that are going to happen to us, or that have already happened to us, that are really horrible, that are terrible. And I never thought in my lifetime that I would take those terrible memories and be thankful for them. And to some people, that sounds crazy. But for me, it's those moments that made me the strongest of who I am today. Because I fought through it, I got through it, and it empowered me to know that I can continue to move and get through it again and again and again. And not only that, I can lend my experience to someone else who comes along who has a similar situation. And I can let them know my growing pains and let them know that they can get through theirs as well. So remember, just like when we are small children and we're growing up, sometimes, as you're getting taller, you might have aches and pains. Sometimes when your hair is growing out, it may feel a little tender. All of those are growing pains for good reasons. We are growing in our elements and we're stretching ourselves to an edge that we've never been in before. And I always say, take yourself to the edge and push yourself a little bit further so that you can grow and not stay in a place of comfort. And you can put that across all of the different areas in your life and see how much you can grow. If you dare to go somewhere further, create a growth chart for yourself. Remember when we were kids and we would stand up against the wall, putting our head back against the wall, and we would see how tall we grew? Now you can use something like that tool to create a growth factor for yourself. Even when you have some hiccups, you can still continue to move. You can see your own growth factors. You can see where you had a hiccup or where you fell down one stair, but it doesn't mean you got to go down the rest of those stairs. You fall down that one stairs and you keep going. You get back up and you keep going and you keep growing. And what I will leave with you here is something I heard that's so wonderful in a conference I was in the other day, is continue to grow up. And I say that and not in growing up the way that we think about it when someone says, oh, just grow up. I mean, continue to grow up and grow in your elements. Continue to reach the heights that you want to reach. And sometimes it is going to take some growing pains to get some growing gains. Thank you.